He loved his brother's wife in silence until their forbiddings destroyed everything.
For 7 years, I buried one secret so deep I thought it would die with me. I was in love with my brother's wife. Not because I chased it. Not because I planned it. Because sometimes the heart picks someone before the mind even understands what it's about to cost you. Her name was Claire. And from the very first moment I felt it, I promised myself I would take this secret to my grave. If you've ever loved someone you could never have, someone standing right in front of you, close enough to touch, impossible to reach, you already know how this story feels before it even begins. Stay with me. Because everything changes on one rainy night, and nothing is ever the same again. My name is Adrian Hayes. I was always the quiet one. My older brother, Daniel, was everything I wasn't: confident, magnetic, the kind of man who walked into a room and immediately became the center of it. I admired him. I still do, even after everything. Growing up, I never resented him for being the brighter light. I just learned to stand a little further back. When Daniel brought Claire home to meet the family, I noticed her before he even finished saying her name. She remembered everyone's birthday, down to the year. She showed up with food for our mother without being asked. She listened, really listened, when people spoke, like their words actually mattered to her. And every single time Daniel walked into a room, her whole face changed. It lit up like she'd been waiting for exactly that. I knew, in that instant, exactly what I was looking at. A woman who loved my brother completely. So I did the only thing I could do. I stepped back. I buried what I felt before it had the chance to grow roots. I told myself it was a passing thing, a foolish thing, and that time would quietly bury it for good. Time did not cooperate. Years passed. Claire and Daniel built a life together, and I became a fixture at family dinners, holidays, quiet Sunday afternoons, always in the room, always a few feet away, always looking for her without meaning to. But I want to be clear about something, because it matters: I never crossed a line. I never touched her. I never said a word that could be mistaken for anything but friendship. I gave her no reason, not once, to suspect what was quietly living inside my chest. I thought I could carry it forever. Silently. Alone. Forever is a long time to lie to yourself. Then came the rainy evening that changed everything. Daniel was away on a business trip. I drove to their house that night only to drop off some documents he needed, nothing more, nothing planned. I told myself that. I still believe it was true. Claire was standing alone in the kitchen when I walked in, and something about the way she stood there, still, hollowed out, staring at nothing, stopped me in the doorway. "Are you okay?" I asked. She forced a smile, the kind that doesn't reach anywhere close to the eyes. "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." She looked down at the counter like it might answer for her. "Daniel and I had an argument before he left." I felt my stomach tighten. I did not want to hear the details of my brother's marriage. Some part of me already understood that every word she said next would cost me something. But she kept going anyway. "He thinks I'm unhappy because I don't appreciate what he gives me." Her voice cracked just slightly on the last word. I didn't say anything. I didn't trust myself to. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, she said, "I don't need expensive things. I just want him to listen." Those words didn't just pass through me. They lodged somewhere and stayed. Because I had been listening to Claire for 7 years. Without even trying, without ever meaning to, I had memorized her. Her favorite coffee order. The songs she played on the bad days. The exact flowers she stopped to smell every single time we passed a garden. The particular way she went quiet, not silent, quiet, whenever something hurt her more than she wanted to admit. I knew all of it. And I knew, with total certainty, that caring about her the way I did was the most dangerous thing I could do. So I did what I always did. I stepped back. I think you should talk to Daniel when he gets home, I said. She looked at me, and something in her expression shifted. You always defend him. He's my brother. And what if he's wrong? I had no answer for that. None. And in the silence that followed, our eyes met, and for one unbearable second, neither of us looked away. That silence terrified me more than anything either of us had said out loud. I left immediately. I didn't say goodbye properly. I just left, because staying one more minute felt like standing too close to a fire I had spent 7 years trying not to touch. The next morning, my phone buzzed. A message from Claire. Thank you for listening yesterday. I stared at those 6 words for longer than I'd like to admit before I finally typed back, you don't have to thank me. After that night, we both tried, quietly and separately, to put distance back between us. I told myself it was working. I told myself the danger had passed. But some things don't ask for permission. They just happen anyway. Daniel's business started to fall apart not long after. The pressure changed him, made him sharper, angrier, harder to reach. Claire tried everything to hold their marriage together while the ground kept shifting under her. And through all of it, I stayed exactly where I'd always stayed. On the outside. Watching. Saying nothing. Until the night Daniel accused her of loving someone else. I wasn't there when it happened. I only know that the accusation was cruel, and that Claire broke down completely, and that Daniel slammed the door on his way out and didn't look back. I found her sitting alone outside the house afterward, in the cold, like she didn't have anywhere else to go and didn't have the strength to go there anyway. I wanted, more than I have ever wanted anything, to sit down beside her and hold her until she stopped shaking. I stopped myself. Again. Claire. She looked up. Her eyes were wrecked. I don't understand why loving someone isn't enough. Something in my chest cracked open right then. Sometimes, I managed, people don't know how to value what they have. She looked straight at me. Do you? My whole body went still. What? Do you value the people you love? I looked away from her, because I couldn't hold that question and lie at the same time. Yes. Then why, she said, do you always look like you're afraid to say something? I couldn't breathe. 7 years of silence, and she had noticed. She had seen straight through me the entire time, and I had never once suspected it. I can't tell you, I whispered. Tell me what? I shook my head. Nothing. I turned and walked away from her, from the house, from the moment, from everything I had spent 7 years protecting. But this time, Claire followed me. Adrian, stop. I turned around. Her eyes were full of a confusion that was quickly turning into something else. Something closer to understanding. Why do you always run away from me? And that was the moment 7 years of silence finally broke. Because you're my brother's wife. Claire went completely still. My voice was shaking, but I couldn't stop it now. I've loved you for years. I've hated myself for it every single day. I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt Daniel. That's the only reason I've stayed away. She couldn't speak. Neither of us moved. The rain had stopped, but neither of us noticed. I stepped back from her, even though it was the last thing my body wanted to do. But you deserve to know the truth. And now that I've said it, I'll leave. Adrian. Her voice broke on my name. I shook my head. No. Please don't make this harder than it already is. And I walked away, leaving 7 years of silence lying on the ground between us, finally spoken and impossible to take back. For the first time, Claire finally understood why I had always kept my distance. Why I never lingered too long in a room she was in. Why I always found a reason to leave. But she understood something else, too, standing there in the wet dark outside the home she shared with my brother. What we felt was real. And that was exactly why it was so dangerous. If you listen to part 1, you already know my secret. 7 years of silence, finally broken in the rain, outside my brother's house, in front of the one woman I was never supposed to love. Claire knew the truth now. But knowing the truth and surviving it are two very different things. What happened next would break our family apart before it had any chance of putting us back together. Stay until the end. This is where everything gets decided. The next morning, Daniel came home. I wasn't there. I didn't need to be, because I already knew what was coming. Claire told him everything. Not because she wanted to leave him for me. I want you to understand that clearly, because it's the truth. She told him because she refused to build a marriage on a lie, even a lie she hadn't told herself. Even a lie that wasn't hers to carry. Daniel was devastated. And then he came looking for me. He found me standing in my own kitchen, and I remember thinking, in that strange calm way your mind works right before something breaks, that I had been waiting 7 years for this exact conversation. You loved my wife? His voice wasn't loud. It was worse than loud. It was quiet and shaking at the same time. I looked him directly in the eyes, because he deserved that much after everything I had taken from him without ever meaning to. Yes. Something in him snapped. You're my brother. I know. You could have had anyone. Anyone. And you chose her? I never chose this, I said. Nobody chooses this, Daniel. I would have given anything not to feel it. He stared at me for a long time. Long enough that I started to wonder if he was ever going to speak again. Long enough that I started to wonder if I had just lost my brother forever. Then I said the only thing I had left. But I never acted on it. I never touched her. I never once asked her to betray you. Not in 7 years. Something shifted in his face. Because underneath all that anger, underneath the betrayal he had every right to feel, he knew I was telling the truth. He had known me his whole life. He knew I didn't lie, and he knew, somewhere in that wrecked and furious heart of his, that I had spent 7 years protecting him from something I could have used to hurt him at any moment. That didn't fix anything. But it was the beginning of something. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Just the first small crack of understanding in a wall that anger had built. The three of us spent the next few months facing the hardest decisions any of us had ever made. Claire chose honesty, even when honesty cost her almost everything she had built. Daniel chose to end a marriage that had already been broken long before I ever said a word out loud. He told me later, much later, that the marriage hadn't failed because of me. It had failed because he and Claire had stopped truly seeing each other years before I ever became part of the story. My confession didn't break them. It only made visible what had already quietly come apart. And I chose the hardest thing of all. I chose to walk away from Claire completely, with no promises, no plans, no secret understanding between us. Just distance. Real distance. Because if what I felt for her was ever going to mean anything, it couldn't be built on my brother's pain. It had to be built on time. So I gave it time. Months passed. I didn't call her. She didn't call me. I focused on rebuilding what I could of my relationship with Daniel, one difficult, mostly silent dinner at a time. Some nights he could barely look at me. Other nights, slowly, painfully, we found our way back to something that almost felt like brothers again. Then, months later, Claire found me at a small cafe I used to go to on quiet mornings. She sat down across from me like no time had passed at all, and like 7 years and one confession and one broken marriage hadn't happened in between. I thought you were leaving forever, she said. I gave her a sad kind of smile, the only kind I had left. I thought I had to. She was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question I had spent 7 years terrified of answering out loud. Do you still love me? I looked into her eyes, and for the first time in my life, I didn't look away from the truth. Yes. She took a slow breath, like she'd been holding it for months. So do I. But here's the part one want you to really hear, because it's the whole reason I'm telling you this story at all. We didn't rush into each other's arms. We didn't celebrate. We sat there, two people who finally could love each other honestly, and we understood something important: love alone was never going to be enough. Love has consequences. Love demands honesty, patience, and the willingness to wait until loving someone doesn't mean destroying someone else in the process. Our story didn't begin with a kiss. It began with a secret, and secrets always have a price. But if Claire and I ever found real happiness together, it wasn't going to be built on betrayal. It was going to be built on truth, patience, and forgiveness, the three things that took us 7 years, one confession, and one broken family to finally understand. If there's one thing I hope you take from this story, it's this. The things we bury don't disappear. They wait. And when they finally surface, the only thing that can carry you through is honesty, even when honesty costs you everything you thought you wanted to protect. If this story meant something to you, stay with me. There are more stories like this one coming, about the secrets we carry, the people we can't help loving, and the courage it takes to finally tell the truth. Like this video, subscribe if you want to hear the next one, and tell me in the comments, do you think Adrian and Daniel could ever truly become brothers again? If you have been with me since part 1, you already know how far this story has come. A secret buried for 7 years. A confession in the rain. A brother's anger. A marriage that ended not because of one mistake, but because it had already stopped growing long before I ever said a word. And in part 2, Claire and I finally sat across from each other and told the truth out loud for the first time. But truth is only the beginning. What we did with it next is the real ending of this story. Stay with me until the last word, because this part is not just about Adrian and Claire anymore. It is about all of us, and the secrets we are still carrying right now. After that morning at the cafe, Claire and I did not rush into anything. We had already learned, the hard way, what happens when love moves faster than trust. So we went slow. We talked. We sat in long silences that used to scare me and did not scare me anymore. We let months pass before we ever called what we had a relationship. And during those months, something I never expected happened. Daniel and I started talking again. It did not happen all at once. It happened in small pieces. A short phone call about nothing important. A message checking if I was doing okay. One evening he showed up at my door with 2 cups of coffee and did not say why he came. We just sat on my porch and drank them in silence, and somehow that silence said more than any apology could have. Months later, he finally asked me the question I had been waiting for since that terrible morning in my kitchen. Are you happy? I did not answer right away, because I wanted to give him the truth, not the easy version of it. I am trying to be, I said. Slowly. Honestly. He nodded, and for the first time since everything came out, he looked at me the way he used to when we were kids. Not as the brother who had betrayed him. Just as his brother. That is all I ever wanted for you, he said. I just wish it had not cost me what it cost me to see it. That sentence stayed with me longer than anything else in this entire story. Because it taught me something I think all of us need to hear at some point in our lives. Healing does not erase pain. It just teaches us how to carry it without letting it destroy everything around us. Claire and I built our life together slowly, the way you rebuild a house after a storm. Carefully. Honestly. Brick by brick, with nothing hidden underneath the foundation this time. We did not get a perfect ending. Daniel still has hard days. So do we. But we chose honesty every single time. It would have been easier to hide, and that choice is what finally let all 3 of us breathe again. I used to believe that love was supposed to feel like fire. Like something that burns through everything in its path without asking permission. But I learned that real love, the kind that actually lasts, feels more like patience. It feels like waiting even when waiting hurts. It feels like choosing someone else's healing over your own happiness, again and again, until the timing finally becomes right instead of forcing it to be right before it ever could be. If you are carrying a secret right now, something you have buried so deep you think it will die with you, I want you to hear this. Secrets do not protect the people we love. They only delay the moment when we finally have to be honest with them, and with ourselves. The longer we wait, the higher the cost becomes. You do not have to make the same mistakes I made. You do not have to wait 7 years to find the courage I finally found in the rain outside my brother's house. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is tell the truth today, gently, honestly, before it forces its way out of you in a moment you cannot control. That is the real ending of this story. Not the love. Not even the forgiveness. But the truth that healing is always possible, no matter how badly things break, as long as we are willing to choose honesty over comfort, again and again, for as long as it takes. Thank you for staying with Adrian, Claire, and Daniel through all 3 parts of this story. If it moved you, touched something in your own life, or made you think about a truth you have been holding on to too tightly, let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you want more stories like this one, because there are many more secrets, many more hearts, and many more truths still waiting to be told.